we're back in the workshop with all this stuff. We are making 2 doors, 1 big sliding door, 1 normal door, for who we did the plywood understairs storage for. So you know what? I might actually make this video a topic of conversation. Let's talk about apprenticeships. That's if you're interested. If you're not, just click off of it and watch another video. I don't know, or don't watch any. It's up to you. The secret to the perfect product is a very sharp pencil.
I left high school at 16, 17 with good GCSE results. I wanted to pursue a career in joinery, so that's what I did. I went to college for 2 months full time, and then I got an apprenticeship with a friend of my dad's who was a joiner called Tony. He was a great teacher. He was really good, but at the time I definitely didn't give him enough credit.
In the first place, I never wanted to be a joiner. I wanted to be an electrician. And then after deciding I didn't want to be an electrician because I went on a course of it in college and found it extremely boring, I then sat on the idea of being a bricklayer. But then I listened to my nan who said, don't do it, you'll hurt your back and your hands will go all messy because of all the heavy lifting you'll do. So I said, okay, well what are the people that build wood things? And then joinery came about, where you don't lift anything heavy and you don't get messed up hands at all. 16-year-old me was an absolute diamond. So in the grand scheme of things, I was one of those cases that got extremely lucky with getting an apprenticeship, pretty much. In terms of what I did, what did I do in my apprenticeship? I mean, I swept up, I got trained on tools. That is pretty much my apprenticeship, or anyone's apprenticeship. And when you first go into the trade, I mean, you will be brushing up, sweeping up, and that's what I did for the most part of, I think, 2-3 months. Is I just swept up, brushed up, cleaned everything, and just watched. The main thing I was always told was to watch. And then he'd quiz me on these things, and I'd try and answer him. Usually I get it wrong, but that's the main part of doing an apprenticeship, is to get everything wrong and out of the way before you then progress to either start your own business or go work for someone else or whatever you want to do. Now if you're watching this and you're worried about getting an apprenticeship because it might seem daunting, well, it's one of those things where you've just got to make the jump. I remember my first day, and we were working in I wouldn't say it was a mosque, but it was I'd say a communal Muslim religious place. It was just a building, and what we had to do was we had to reinforce some joists because the floor was bouncing. It was rotten, I think. And we were working in the basement in Bolton Town Centre. I remember the first day rocking up, and I was petrified. I had never been more out of my comfort zone in my entire life. It's strange coming out of high school where you're sheltered and you're in this little shell, your own bubble, and then you go into the real working world. After that first day, I was really considering not doing joinery because of how out of my comfort zone I was and how I wanted to be back in high school in this place of comfort, this shell, this force field around you, shielded from the real world, and I just wanted to be back in that place. And then I sort of slapped myself, metaphorically, and then I got the apprenticeship. He took me on, and he had a few apprentices before me. I think he had about 4 or 5, but I mean this was when he was working for at firms, and I was his last ever apprentice. I'm gonna be honest, I do not blame him, because I was a handful. Literally a handful.
Quick disclaimer. The way I was speaking about Tony sounded like he was actually dead or he'd retired. He's not dead or retired, he's still working, I just don't see him anymore.
So in terms of jobs, I mean, well that differs depending on who you're with, what size the company is, you know. So I can't really answer that one other than I did 2 years with Tony and I learned loads of stuff. But again, it depends how good your teacher is and what he's willing to teach you. But what I can say is, from my experience, the best type of experience is working on domestic houses, not on site where you're building a big structure. Hear me out. It doesn't actually matter where you get your experience from, as long as you get that experience. I mean, I worked on domestics and I've never worked on site. But personally, from what I've seen at college working with people of loads of different ages, they could be 24, doing an apprenticeship, you know, or my age, the youngest age you could start, which is 16, 17, whatever it is. And I think domestic work is probably the better version, because you'll be working on buildings that are 20 to hundreds and hundreds of years old, depending on who you're working with and what type of job you're doing. And you've got to adapt to knowing when you walk into a house that everything is out. There's no plumb, there's no square, there's nothing. And site work is just very, put a wall up, square it, plumb it, done. Another one, another one, another one. And I think with site you gain more speed and you gain a bit more experience of doing that. But with domestic you're a little bit more technical, I would say. But again, it doesn't really matter. When you're a site worker and you go to fit doors on site, everything is, well, there's no excuse to not be bang on because it's all built from scratch. When you're a domestic, when you work on domestic houses, there is never a casing that is plumbed, so you've got to plane everything down. Suit the casing. And I think when you're an apprentice, the most difficult job that you are going to do is fitting doors. They're the most technical things I think you'll do in your apprenticeship. Now, apprenticeships in England, you can be qualified after 2 years. In other countries that's different, but you can be qualified in 2 years. I'm only level 2 qualified. I'm only doing 1 and 2. You can do your level 3, which is your advanced course. I did go and do that, but it didn't work out in the end. Through reasons I can't bother going into. Qualifications and all that is all well and good, but again, when you're working on site, I've never had a customer ask me what qualifications I've got. All they ask me is, can you fit a door? Yes. Can you do this? Can you do that? Yes, yes, yes. I can do it all. Well, I think I can do most of it. But how do you get one? Well, you can apply anywhere. Even college. I mean, you can join at any time, you can be any age. Especially, well, I'm talking about England, my own experience. Again, like I said before, I worked with lads that were like 24, 25. I worked with a lad who was 23 and he went to university to be a forensic scientist. And they wanted to be a joiner. I don't know.
You may be asking yourself, do I actually need any tools to take with me as an apprentice? No, you're not expected to take any tools on site.
My chisels aren't that sharp actually, they need to be sharpened. This is what I mean by old houses. It's catch on floor. And also, the casing's out. The legs are doing an X shape, doing that. So the customer was telling me, he came down before to give me back the Stanley knife, that the entire house from that wall to that wall behind me is 6 inches out. And that explains why it takes so much off the bottom there. And what I did with the bottom there, I actually chamfered the bottom of it so it looks less on that side, but it'll be a lot more on that side. It's a little bit of privacy. I'll see you in there. One of the main reasons why I love my job, so I can buy a really expensive Hoover. I love my job. DVC 153L. Yeah. Really, who cares? No one cares what number it is. It's a Makita Hoover and it's brushless. Oh, and I feel like I'm really lucky. Oi! I like this. I'm keeping that. Very important. I got two. I got one for this, even though it takes 2 batteries, and I got one to replace my number 3. I number all my batteries. But that's for another video. Hoover! I wanted to replace my big dustbin Hoover, which one, it doesn't have little wheels. I'm an idiot. So I've actually got to go and nip to another job after this, but I thought, well, let's take a little bit of, oh, it's so shiny. Let's take a little bit of time out my day to do some unboxing. Yes. I feel like Mrs. Doubtfire with this thing. Oh. Instructions. Massive misconception with constructions, you should always read them. So I can have a massive hose, which is something I've always wanted, is a massive hose. Laugh? Let's see if it works. Usually these batteries are actually already charged. No, they're not. Look, that's what happened to my battery. And then I snapped 2 of the charging prongs.